What's up, y'all? Will here at Schedulefly, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast, brought to you by us here at Schedulefly, schedulefly.com. Simple restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service. Look, if you're on Excel or pencil and paper, or you're on a cumbersome, expensive scheduling software that has a lot of bells and whistles you don't need or use, give us a look. Schedulefly.com, 30-day free trial. What nearly 6,000 restaurants will tell you, all of their staff, their managers, their owners. It's a simple phrase: Schedulefly makes my life easier. That's it. That's what we do. Also brought to you by two great companies, Pop Menu and Kickfin. We know them well, and we're thrilled to have them as sponsors. You're going to hear more about them here momentarily. But first, let's talk about Dan Latino, our guest. I've known him for a long time. Great dude. He's been growing his business for years. He's got 6 restaurants in Chicago, recently moved down to Naples, opened his first one down there a few months ago, has growth plans in Naples, kind of hedging, right? Been up in Chicago his whole life, and has great businesses there, but now he's going to grow down in Naples. So smart move. He's a smart dude, and I like Dan so much. 3rd generation restaurant person, grandfather, father, now Dan. And, Dad got him a job bussing tables at age 14, and he knew right away that was what he wanted to do. And here he is, 20, 30 years later. And let me think about this. I think he said he's 42 during this interview. So, yeah, almost 30 years later, he's doing really well and runs great businesses. Super dude, inspiring, educational. Love talking to Dan always, longtime customer. And, well, before we hear from Dan, we're going to hear a quick word from our Schedulefly partner and our lead sponsor of this podcast, Pop Menu. Pop Menu is, well, they're a partner of Schedulefly, and we have a lot of happy mutual customers. But Pop Menu is all about making your day easier and your sales bigger. They will simplify your marketing operations, bring in more guests, capture customer data for personalized remarketing to keep them coming back. With one super simple to use platform that integrates with most point of sales like Toast and Square and a number of others, Pop Menu starts with a beautifully designed, easy to update interactive menu that transforms the guest experience online. It includes a brand new website that's optimized for search engines like Google for no additional cost, automated digital marketing, online ordering and waitlisting, and you'll never miss another call with their AI answering solution that costs as little as 47 cents an hour. Check it out. Check out the link in our show notes. There's so much more in Pop Menu. Here's my 2 cents. I've talked to a lot of our mutual customers, and here's what they say about Pop Menu. Great company, great customer service, great product, great results. Check out Pop Menu and check out this episode of Restaurant Owners Uncorked.
Hey, Will, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, Dan?
Oh, not too much, man. How you been?
I've been great, man. Been a fun and busy summer. Sounds like it has been for you too.
Yeah, man. A lot of stuff going on for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, do me a favor and just introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Dan Latino. I own 6 restaurants. Most of them are in Illinois, the Chicagoland area, and I just opened one in Naples, Florida, about 3 months ago now.
Is that where you are right now?
Yeah, I'm in Naples. Can you tell by the weather?
Doesn't look like Chicago in the background there. Okay. Well, so, thank you for taking the time to do this today. I appreciate it very much, man.
Oh, of course, man. I always love connecting with you. It's always a nice talk, and I always learn a few things.
Well, it's nice to put a name and a face together. And I'm excited to learn more about your story, man. I mean, like you said, you and I have talked plenty of times, but give me the backstory about how and why you initially got started in hospitality.
Yeah, for sure. So my family's always worked in the hospitality industry. About 125 years ago, my family came over from Italy, and my grandpa had an Italian restaurant when my dad was young. My dad worked there. My dad was smart enough to get out of the liquor business, out of the restaurant business, and he ended up being a liquor salesman. So he did that for about 30 years. And when I was around 18, 19 years old, knocking around community colleges and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, my dad got me a job at a restaurant, just working as a busboy, just to kind of make a few bucks and learn something. And I just loved it. Just I knew exactly what I wanted to do, so I just kind of took it and ran with it. So, I started as a busboy, worked as a bartender for a little bit when I was 21, and then when I was 22, got a full-time bartending job. Um, and finally, when I was about almost 24, we bought a building. My dad and I bought a building in Chicago, little tiny building, and had a bar in the basement. So I took the bar over, and just, it was a 60-person restaurant bar, and I just took it and ran with it. All my friends were out all the time when I was, 23, 24. So it was pretty easy. And we parlayed that into a few other places. And about 5 years ago or so, my dad ended up, retiring from the liquor business and retiring from the restaurant end of it. So I bought him out from it and just continue to open restaurants.
Amazing, man. It's such a classic story. 14, 15-year-old, busting tables, and then here you are. What you knew quickly why? What was it about hospitality that you fell in love with?
Yeah, I just like making people happy. It's if you break it down, it's pretty easy. Someone comes into your restaurant and you want to give them a, warm welcome, first impression, and then you want to leave with a nice, lasting, positive impression. And it's probably my boss at the time who kind of instilled that in me, and I just loved it. Seeing people come in and when people go out to eat or drink, they're always in a good mood. You're celebrating something, or you're getting a break from your kids, or something's out. You're not cooking dinner, that's for sure. So you just kind of have to take it and run with it when people come in, and whatever they need, you take care of them. If there's an issue, you take care of it. And you know how it is. It's so hard to get a new customer. So the customers that you do have, you want to keep them happy. And I love that end of it. I like making people happy and seeing them come in and have a really nice experience.
Yeah, it's it really comes down to treating people the way you treat them if they came to your home, right? Like when you have friends and family or whoever over, you want to make sure everything is clean and neat. You pay particular attention to the details. You're looking around, seeing if they need anything. You want them to feel welcome and comfortable and happy and relaxed and have a good time and want to come back to your home. And so the trick is like, okay, well, yeah, for sure. When people come to my home, I do that every time. How do you do that in a business environment where you have them coming every day and find people that share that passion as well? I mean, you say it, it's pretty simple. It is high level, simple concept. Day to day, not easy to execute, man. That's why I have so much respect for folks like you. I used to think, kind of getting into this 16, we've been doing this 16 years at Schedulefly. I was like, I want to own a restaurant one day. Now I'm like, no, I think I just want to interview restaurant owners and just kind of, awe and respect for what y'all do, because it's not easy. It's hard. It takes a certain type.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. I mean, you nailed it. I mean, what sets you apart? A lot of times it's, you can go and get a Miller Lite anywhere for $4 or $3. Everyone knows everyone's prices and it's the same product, but the one variable is that person serving that Miller Lite. So to your point, the concept of it is easy, but following through with it and making sure that everyone has a good experience definitely gets a little tougher. And you're only as good as your employees. You can serve, you can come up with the best chicken sandwich recipe or the best margarita recipe, but if your employees aren't executing it properly and presenting it properly, it's just not going to work. But yeah, I think you nailed it.
How many employees do you have across all your locations?
That's a good question. Probably have about 125 now.
125.
Yeah, about 125. And, it could vary seasonally. The place in Chicago, we always add staff for the summer, winter, kind of toned it down a little bit. But
Yeah.
right around there.
Okay. Tell me about you've got all these different concepts. Do you have an overarching group that like, do you have a business that owns all of these concepts, all completely separate and you have different partners or different investors in each, or how's that work?
Yeah. So, I'm lucky enough to not have any investors. I kind of really built it up. I'm 42 now and I've been in it, like I said, over 20 years now. So I've really kind of built it up slowly.
Yeah.
So, it's really just me. Um, and when it comes down to the businesses, everything's its own corporation. Like you said, everything's a little bit different concept. Um, I bought them from time to time. For one of mine owned for 18 years, one of them I've owned for 2 months. So just working with attorneys, kind of piecing it together as I've gone.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that is I'm just curious across the concepts. Do you have a certain a culture that you've instilled into all of them? I know they all have, you've got different food, different concepts, different, ways y'all execute and everything. But is there, when you talk about people, I think about people and I think about culture and something that would be consistent across all of your, and the way you teach them, that has to be instilled into all your 120, 30, 40, 50 staff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the number one thing, getting back to it is customer service. The first thing I tell everyone is, I mentioned it a few minutes ago, but it's really hard to get people through your doors. So when people do come through, we want to do anything we can to please them, within reason. If someone's upsetting other customers, we're not going to allow that. But, we want people that, are going out to have a good time, and we want to show them a good time. So the number one thing is customer service. One thing I like to do from my end is not overwork my employees and really treat my employees as much like family as possible. Because, like I said, I'm 42. When I came up in this business, you were working 60 or 70 hours a week sometimes. And managers were working like, my manager, when I first started, was working like 80 hours a week. I think the guy lived there, And, fast forward 20 years, if I interviewed someone and told them you're going to work 70 to 80 hours, they would go someplace else. They'd go work for Amazon or something like that. So one thing I like to do is always keep my staff at or below about 50 hours, and that includes managers. I like to give my staff a flexible schedule because, back in the day, I used to have 2 managers on running a place, and they pretty much took all the shifts. Now I have 3. We have a third like swing manager that helps out bartending, serving sometimes, and then picks up some manager shifts. So, if the GM wants to get out of town, they're able to do that. And before 20 years ago, it was a lot harder to give people time off. So those are the 2 main things, treat the customers like their family, treat the employees like their family. And, everything seems to kind of fall into place.
I feel like the staff is so important now because they will go work somewhere else. They do have options. If you're asking somebody to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, there's a restaurant down the street that says we won't work you more than 50. So you treating them like family, it seems to me, and again, so much harder than it would seem. But if you're able to pull that off and you treat your staff really well, I mean, everybody wants to feel validated. They want to feel important. And 20 years ago, you may not have had a choice. You may not have had options. And if you had to work as a manager 60 or 70 hours, and tough, like that's just how the industry is. Industry's changed a lot. So people want to feel important. That's universal. If they feel like they're part of a family, I mean, doesn't that always translate to, if they feel loved and appreciated and cared for and respected, then doesn't that eliminate like 95% of the issues of whether they're going to take care of the guest the right way?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, they take a lot more pride in taking care of the guests. They would take a lot more ownership in the business. They're less likely to steal from you or give their friends stuff. We try to be transparent as possible. Hey, Will, if you're working at the restaurant, you bring in 10 friends for someone's birthday, don't go give them, $100 worth of free drinks. Let us know and we'll buy the table around the shots. We'd like to do stuff like that. And I feel like it goes a long way in, making the staff feel like they are not only part of the restaurant family, but also, they take ownership in the place. And like you said, there are a lot more options. If someone wants to go to the beach and their friends are all going to the beach, they know that they can ditch out on work and go have some fun with their friends. And if the restaurant they're working at doesn't put them on the next week, they could walk across the street and get a job at the place across the street, and they'll be making money within a couple days. So, things just change sometimes. I mean, there's some good things that change. There's some things that change for the worse, but overall, there's really nothing you can do. You kind of got to roll with the punches a little bit.
No doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. Well, one thing that's changed over the last few years for all of us is, inflation. And as a business, you've got all of your costs have gone up, and now, as a consumer, everything's going up. So I'm curious, how is everything looking this year so far? Are people still going out as much, or is it harder to get people to come in the doors, which then underscores the importance of, wanting them to come back?
Yeah, for sure. So it's weird. We've been through a few weird years in the restaurant industry here. Last three years or so have been weird. Don't really know what to expect, especially up in Chicago. And that's kind of one of the reasons that I hedged my bet a little bit. 5 of my places are up in Chicago, and having gone through some of the stuff up there the last couple of years, I wanted to open another place out of state, kind of hedge my bet a little bit. So luckily enough, that's why I opened a place down in Naples. Overall, the last 6 months to a year, I feel like the inflation end of it is kind of slowed a little bit, where, the labor's kind of settled down a little bit. Pricing on food has fluctuated quite a bit still, but it's not increasing like it once did. So we've been kind of able to manage that a little bit better. But I do think that people are going out less, and they're definitely watching their pocketbooks a little more. We have more people looking for specials, more people. Sorry.
Dan, sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm so sorry. When you said pricing on food has fluctuated a little bit, I lost you.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, go back to, you said pricing on food has fluctuated a little bit, and then everything from there, you cut out.
Yeah. So on our end of it, the labor end of it is settled down a little bit. So we don't have, labor skyrocketing like we did a couple of years back, because that was pretty tough to manage. Again, like you said, we'd have a guy in the kitchen making $17 an hour. He would go across the street, apply, and get offered $18.50, and we'd have to come back at $18.50 or $19, or run the risk of losing that employee. And that was happening a lot before. That settled down a lot. Food is still fluctuating a little bit. It seems like it's increasing still on our end, but not like it once was, which is nice. A couple of years ago, it was like the wild, wild west. Stuff was going up 30% in a matter of a couple weeks sometimes. But that seemed to settle down a lot. As far as customers, a lot of people are still going out, but it definitely seems like people are more looking for deals nowadays than they were, especially a couple years ago. A couple years ago, people were going out spending just crazy money. People didn't care. And now, you get more calls asking what your specials are. People that come in ask what your specials are. So, it's changed a little bit, but, we still pretty much see the same amount of people coming out. It's just, they are definitely looking for deals. People have cheapened up a little bit.
All right, y'all. Time for a little mid-episode break to talk about Kickfin, our mid-episode sponsor and a great business. Thousands of restaurants, bars, and breweries use Kickfin to tip out their employees instantly, no cash required. With Kickfin, tips go directly to your employer's bank of choice the second their shift ends. It's a really simple solution to a really big problem, because if you're still paying out credit card tips in cash, it's costing you. Time-consuming bank runs and cash counting take managers away from work that matters. Cash is hard to track, which leads to accounting headaches, and it creates the perfect opportunity for theft, human error, and compliance issues. Bottom line, there's never been an instant, secure way to pay out tips until Kickfin. It's an easy-to-use software that sends real-time cashless tip payouts straight to your employees' bank accounts 24/7, 365. Kickfin gives managers hours back in their day, makes reporting a breeze, and protects your business from risk. Most importantly, employees love it. Restaurants can have Kickfin up and running overnight. Employees can enroll in seconds. No hardware, no contracts, no setup fees. Visit kickfin.com for a personalized demo and see how restaurants across the country are digitizing tips with Kickfin. That's what they like me to read. I will tell you this. I know the folks at Kickfin. Check out the episode with Brian Hassan, the co-CEO of Kickfin, was on here on the podcast. Great people, love what they do. They treat their customers well. We have mutual customers that love the product and love the way they, the relationship they have with Kickfin. So check it out, link in the show notes, and let's check out the rest of this episode.
Talk a little bit about Chicago and Naples. Are you, has your family been vacationing to Naples, or do you like for a long time, or how did you settle on Naples and what's going on down there?
Yeah, so we're originally from Chicago. I lived there my whole life. Whole family's lived there my whole life. About 15 years ago, my dad moved down to Naples, Florida. So we would always go down once or twice a year to visit, and we just fell in love with it. We like the weather, the lifestyle. There's not much to dislike about it. And my wife and I, we had always talked about, moving down there with the kids or moving down there when we retired. But a couple years ago, with everything that was going on in Chicago and the way that our restaurants were, being regulated and everything, we just decided to make the move now. So, we came up with a plan. I have two really good guys up in Chicago, Brian and Nick, that are two of my best friends in life, and they've been with me in the restaurant business for about 20 years. So they handle everything up in Chicago, and we decided that instead of opening more places in Illinois, we wanted to open some places down in Florida. So I made the move down here. My brother was a police officer up in Chicago, and he resigned and came down here. So he helps me out with the restaurant. One of our uncles came down and helps us with the restaurant. So it was an easy sell to get people down to Naples. So we came down here. Like I said, my dad's down here, my brother's down here, my mom ended up moving down here. So pretty much the whole family's down here at this point. And we're hoping to open some more places down here. We've got the one right now, it's called the Oasis, and we hope to open a couple more in the next few years.
That's fantastic, man. So when did the Oasis open?
So we opened April 13th, 2020. Yeah, a couple years ago. It was a restaurant before for about 25 years, and it was pretty much the busiest spot in Naples. But like any restaurant, it goes through cycles, and the guy that owned it was looking to sell it and get into some different things. So it was a great opportunity for us to kind of do a cosmetic rebrand, change the menu up, freshen up the staff, and we've been rocking and rolling. It's the off season down here right now with it being summer, but we're still doing really well, and we're hoping for a really big season once September, October comes around.
Is Naples, so is there a lot of growth? I mean, I know there's a lot of growth in Florida in general. Is Naples just seeing booming growth?
Yeah, Naples is a funky spot because, we're basically almost at the bottom of the country. We're parallel with Miami. And when you go to the East Coast of Florida, the West Palm Beaches and Fort Lauderdale's Miami side, everything's built up. It feels like a big city. And
Yep.
Naples more country-ish. There's a lot more open land. It's a lot less densely populated. The population here is exploding because people want to be here. But all in all, it's definitely a growing area between Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Naples, in the southern Naples. There's just construction going on everywhere. So we felt like there was a lot of opportunity to grow down here. And there's a lot of people moving from up north that are moving south. And, they have different expectations in terms of restaurants or bars. So we felt like we can kind of fill some of those voids.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, congratulations on having so much family down there with you, man. I bet I'd love to talk to your brother about the change in pace and stress from, I mean, not that he's entered a low stress environment with the restaurants, but from being a police officer in Chicago, over the last few years, I bet he's got some stories, man. So good for him, man. That's great. I'm glad that worked out for him.
Yeah, he's my younger brother. So he was on for like 8 years, and he's like, man, my pension won't kick in for, I think, 12 or 14 more years or whatever it was. He's like, I need to get out of here. And, we've both got small kids, and we just kind of wanted a different environment for our kids to grow up.
Yeah, good, man. Good. Well, that's great. You've been able to manage having, folks that you know and love and trust, up in there, Chicago. They're going to be visiting you and trying to figure out how do they get people to help them down there so they can help you in Naples, man. Well, do you like, how often do you go back to Chicago or?
Yeah, I'm back every 6 months or so. I
Okay.
mean, depending on what's going on, I try to make it up every 6 months. So just to, like I said, I lived there for 40 years. I've got a lot of good friends, and there's still some family up there. So if there's
Yeah.
someone getting or something we need to do, we try to go up there and then, hit the restaurants for a few days. I was just up there in June for about 3 weeks. And now I'm back in Naples, man, getting ready for the season down here. I'm lucky, like I said, that the two guys up in Chicago, they do a killer job. They run the heck out of the places, and when I'm not there, it's like they're being run even when if I was there. So I'm really thankful for that.
I'm starting to see more places, and I think it's tends to be geographically concentrated, where we're starting to see more places close. Are there more and more places closing in Chicago, and maybe less so in Florida? I don't know, but I'm curious what you're seeing and what you're hearing, just being so out into the space as you are.
Yeah, for sure in Chicago, man. I mean, places that have been around forever close. I actually just closed one of my places this last Saturday. I had a spot called Waterhouse for 18 years, and just kind of ran its course. So Saturday was its last day. I'm going to remodel it, reconcept, and reopen it under a different name. But my business has gone down in the last 3 years. There's no doubt about it. And I'm seeing a lot more places close up in Chicago than Naples for sure. The off season down here, you always see a few places kind of come and go, but normally they're the places that you kind of expected it. To be honest, up in Chicago, I've seen a few places that closed that I'm just shocked about because 3-4 years ago these places had to just be doing killer business, and now they're closing their doors. So yeah, it's been tough, man. I mean, like you said, it's hard. You go out for a $20 burger, and from our end, we're like, shoot, we got to pay staff and pay for the burger and pay for all this stuff. And then from a customer's point of view, you're like, dang, $20 for a burger that used to cost me $12.
Yeah.
So try to manage that. And at the end of the day, as long as that person comes in and says, hey, I spent $20 on a burger, but it was really good, hopefully you're able to retain those customers. But you nailed it. I mean, it's tough. I mean, things have changed. Our equation has changed in the restaurant business. For a long time, it was simple. Charge a few bucks for domestic, keep your staple items low, like burgers, stuff that people always order, and just give them really good product. And the equation has changed. Stuff that used to work no longer works.
Yeah, which gets us back to that point that if prices have gone to a point where it's harder, for a person or a family to go out as often, then when they go buy that $18 or $20 burger, not only is the food it's got to be good, right? The experience has to be wonderful, because now maybe I'm going out less often. I'm going to pick my places carefully, and I'm going to go back to ones where I know that I'm going to get my money's worth. And to your point, it's not going to be just, was the burger good? Was my experience great? Was I treated with warmth and authenticity and genuine interest in me being there? Was the staff happy and smiling? And did the staff seem happy? And I mean, you just, as a consumer, I think you have more that goes into your equation now, and which I guess gets us to why some places are closing, because if people are going out less, then there's going to be, less restaurants around than there were. And maybe in some ways that, it almost has to happen, right? You've been in the business long enough. Stuff is cyclical. For the last 10 years, debt was dirt cheap. So, we just had a booming economy. There's so many restaurants open over the last decade. And it seems like maybe we may be going through a period where they're not quite as many, but it just elevates the game of all the ones that make it.
and like, it just makes you better and prepares for the next round of good times. I think, I hope. I mean, that seems like how these things tend to go. Is that a decent way to look at it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of my favorite things to do, and one of the first things I teach a manager when I'm training them is, you're going to be in this restaurant for, 8, 10 hours a day. At some point, you need to walk outside, take 5 minutes, and then walk back in as if you're a customer, or, on your day off, pop in, have some food, have some drinks, we'll comp it, but feel the place from a customer's point of view. Because oftentimes you feel it from a manager or an owner's point of view, and you don't feel the same experience. So if you walk out for a few minutes and you come back in, you might say, hey, the music's too loud. Hey, there's some paper on the floor over there. You'll have a completely different experience. And you do have to be on your game. You have to play good music. The place has to be clean. Like you touched on, the staff needs to be on point and welcome you in and thank you when you're leaving. And for some old school restaurateurs, it's probably hard to adjust to that. And I see that a lot in Naples because um, down in Naples, it seems like there's a lot of people go out. A lot of people like to go out for dinner. There's a lot of people that are here on vacation or seasonally, so they don't want to cook. So it seems like there's not enough restaurants for how many people that live here. But in Chicago, it's a much more competitive market.
Mm.
There's restaurants and bars on every corner. So if you don't have good food, if you don't have good service, you might not even make it through the first year. You can't rely on being like the new spot or the cool spot in the neighborhood. You really have to go back to the basics, like you mentioned.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. Well, good for you, Dan. What a great story, man. And a good, wise hedge. Because these things geographically, economically, things are cyclical and having those, you're kind of in almost like two polar opposite places, in a lot of ways, but then you also are I mean, if you follow the demographics long term, at least as they're moving now and things can change, people are generally moving to the Southeast and Southwest. The boomer generation is retiring and, just like your folks, like a lot of them want to go somewhere like Naples. So I'm glad that you're there and I'm glad you've been able to, find good folks to run things in Chicago for you, man. It's a good balance. If you're long the hospitality business, that's a smart hedge, man. So well done.
It's the only business I know, so I'm stuck in it, man. No, thank you. I appreciate that. You never, when you make a big move like that, you're never really sure, and you're nervous. I never went away to college. I lived in Chicago my whole life, so it's definitely a nerve-wracking experience. But at this point, 2 years in, I'm so happy I did it.
Good, man. I'm really glad to hear that. I can tell, I can see it on your face. Um, well, I'm so glad that we got to do this today and I appreciate it. You're a busy dude and you have a lot going on and you have a lot of good wisdom and experience in the industry. So I know this is educational and inspiring for anybody that's listening. And man, we just got a credible growing listenership to this podcast. It's like the 6th highest rated hospitality podcast now, which energizes me to just keep doing it because, we've only done it with our customers and we've done almost 500 episodes, but we've got almost 6,000 restaurants. So lots of room to grow, but this is never with, we don't get celebrity chefs and people with big cachet that will, we people want to listen to people like you that, have slowly built a successful business, have been in the business and understand it and are relatable. And man, I could do this all day long talking to folks like you, Dan. I get so inspired every time I do this and I learn so much. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time. And I know our audience does too.
Oh, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. The feeling is mutual. I mean, you're the easy guy to talk to. I love the podcast, and like I said, I've been in the restaurant business my whole life, and I still learn stuff from your listeners. So I think what you do is great because it's not always about the celebrities or the fanciest restaurant in town. It's about people that have been doing it for a long time, and you can learn a lot from those people. And I hope I didn't inspire you to open a restaurant.
Nobody has yet. I've been close, but no. Well, it's funny. So another podcast that I highly recommend. This young man has built this great business restaurant, Unstoppable, and I was on his podcast recently. I mean, his whole business is a restaurant podcast, but he told me early on that he would have a lot of these like celebrated chefs and like James Beard Award winners, and like that was his big focus. And he said he learned not all of them. I want to make that clear for sure, because I know some probably listen to this, and some have been on this podcast, some James Beard Award winners. But he said it was amazing how many of folks that are highly celebrated in social media and elsewhere have restaurants that don't make money. They're not profitable. And what people really care about is like, I just want to learn from people that have run profitable, successful businesses and have done it with tenure and, and have made a career out of it. And that's what we really like to focus on. And that's who we're proud to serve, man. It's just, it's there seems to be a lot about the restaurant industry to people that aren't in it, that seems like this sexy thing. Holy cow. That's like a tiny percent of it. It is a grind. It is a tough business. It's hard. You have to master 1,000 different skill sets. And I'm thoroughly convinced if you can be successful in the restaurant business, you can do anything. I mean, seriously, like you have to master more things doing what you do, Dan, than almost any other career. And so tip of the hat, brother.
Oh, thanks, Will. I appreciate that, man. It means a lot coming from you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'll let you roll. Naples is on my family's radar. My wife's been down there on a girls' trip. I got 3 kids. Naples it's hovering around our short-term objectives to take a trip, man. So now that I know you're down there all the time, one more arrow in the quiver for why we ought to head that way. So if we're going to do it, or when we're going to do it, that is, I'll be calling you, man.
Please do. Let me know. I'll show you around Naples. It's great for families. The weather's always beautiful, even when the weather up north is terrible. In the winter, it's like -20 in Chicago, and it's like 85 down here. So, yeah, man, come on down. You can do it. The golf's great. You can surf, beautiful beaches. So I look forward to hosting you guys down here. Please do.
Is there a break there on the Gulf side? There's a little that you got a little surf break there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, good. Yeah, we like to get out there and mess around on those boards. Hey, man, well, listen, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for your business. We appreciate you as a customer and appreciate you as a friend, man. So thank you very much.
Of course, Bill. Yeah, same to you, man. It's always nice catching up.
All right, have a good one, Dan. See you.
Bye.
Hey, y'all, before you sign out on this episode, a couple of quick things. Number one, if you listen to us on iTunes, if you could give us a star rating and a comment, it would help so much. Same thing if you're on Spotify, follow us, or any platform that you're on. If you would just do whatever their rating or follow options are. What that does is it tells the algorithms that this content is good and meaningful and valuable, and it'll tell them to put it in front of more people. So thank you for doing that. If you take the second to do that, that'd be so awesome. And also, if your restaurant is either using Excel or you're using some software that's expensive and has a lot of bells and whistles you don't need, or maybe doesn't have great customer service, we'd love to take care of you at ScheduleFly. Simple, easy restaurant employee scheduling software, legendary customer service, 30-day free trial, schedulefly.com. My cell phone number's on the trial sign-up page. Thank you for listening. See ya.